So energy justice is receiving more attention, but putting it to practice is still quite challenging. Natalia, why is it so difficult to translate this into everyday practices and routines?
Well, I think when we have mentioned it already, justice is an interdisciplinary topic. And we're not giving us a favor by using the word justice in here, because justice, of course, is connected to one discipline, which is law and legislations. Well, what we discuss in these videos and today in these conversations is that justice comes about inclusivity, participatory, diversity, and recognition and different principles that go beyond just that one discipline. And I even said interdisciplinary, but it's even transdisciplinary. So the participation of citizens is so important, and one of the principles is procedural, which is often seen by DSOs and energy companies as something that it just delays their normal ways of doing. But yeah, in the end, and they have difficulties to even understand what justice means for the citizens they're trying to bring their services. So we really need to understand justice from a transdisciplinary perspective, where different ways of discussing and negotiating and decision making has to happen than in the ways that we see it right now. Yeah.
Yeah, and related to this, in my work engaging with many practicing energy companies, I see that at least in the current implementation of energy justice in practice, while people are speaking about justice, also because it's being identified by the governments as a key policy and key orientation of energy systems, but in reality, it may seem that there is almost a tokenization of energy justice which is happening, that, oh yeah, we have researchers and people who will give attention to energy justice, they will do some workshop, but it leaves at that. Whether that translate into some clear practices, ways of working, that's still missing. So translation from this researchers' exploration of justice into practice, that's missing right now. There is almost a sense that justice still remains an afterthought, that we know, but we have to first work on the technical challenge of the energy systems. And if we address that, if that is get covered, then of course we will think about how justice could be. And in the meanwhile, keep looking for researchers, keep exploring. So I think justice should become more integral to the ways of working, to the ways how grid operators and are organizing their work, how they are thinking about the grid. And that's something which I find missing at the moment.
Yeah, I think that there's a really big challenge or responsibility to make social concerns like energy justice more central. Also in engineering, I think we're growing there. I think Delft does a pretty good job, but we can do actually a lot more. And so it's important for engineers and other professionals that are in charge of the grid and of the energy transition to better anticipate justice concerns. And there's a clear business case to this, because if you don't, then these issues will come up later, and we will have to pay a lot of money for it. And I think it's not unfair, I think, to make the analogy to the Dutch childcare benefit scandal, which is a very big scandal where the use of algorithms and data was so basically led to thousands of families being unfairly accused of committing fraud. As a result, the government even had to step down, and now we're still in the afterwake of that, and the government has paid so much more money. But I think the most important thing here is there's the harms that have been done to these families is just unacceptably high, and we need a whole lecture to talk about this in detail. But the key here is that in energy systems we are making similar kinds of mistakes. So we have seen with the new Dutch energy law that the former minister, now prime minister, was not sort of anticipating any justice concerns and sort of said, okay, we'll deal with them later. So there's this mindset. It's not just an engineering mindset. I think it's also a policy mindset. And it's one of the reasons why I think we're walking from one crisis to the other. I think the current government is really challenged by that. So it's very important, to put it shortly, briefly, to anticipate these things, and maybe we can talk about how that looks like in policymaking. I think the policymakers should come to Delft to talk with us, and we can see how we can help them. And the role of knowledge institutions is critical, but we can also translate this to engineering concepts, so to speak.
Yeah, and I think that a very long time ago, we were having this conversation with a lot of energy companies in a workshop and it almost felt that resilience of the grid, reliability of the grid versus justice as a trade-off. And
Right.
I think we were having conversation, is this really a trade-off? Should this be seen as a trade-off? While we make an estimation of how the grid is doing, shouldn't we be having mechanisms to estimate how justice is being
Yeah.
done?
Exactly. Yeah. So there are ways to anticipate known justice issues that we've seen before, and we can sort of characterize them, and we can formulate them as constraints, just like we are formulating constraints for voltage and power capacity, for instance. Right? And then there are other issues that we haven't anticipated yet, right? And there's many of those. And in order to address those, there is like a whole body of literature. We talked a bit about this in one of the videos about drawing inspiration from system safety, which is a whole discipline that tries to anticipate and understand, okay, where in engineering, but also in organizing a big organization, but also the level of leadership and policy, like what are the ways in which we can anticipate new or if a new issue emerges, how can leaders actually take that very seriously and invest in addressing that timely, so that it doesn't lead to a new sort of scandal or a new crisis.
Yeah, it's very interesting to hear. So this means there are also a lot of opportunities to make justice part of everyday practice in the system, so that we can develop a shared language, for instance, or embed it in our work cultures, and also clarify who's responsible for what. And to me, this makes it very exciting, because that means there's a lot we can learn and also shape together. So thank you for watching, and we see you in the next video.